Well, this is my review of Catherine's Landing RV Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's on Lake Catherine, which makes it a very nice setting. The plots are pretty far apart. And as you can tell, from this picture at least, the place is set up for big rigs, and there were lots of big rigs around. Here's our little rig sitting next to a big rig, and we had a really nice spot right on the water and right next to the restrooms. And I have to tell you, the restrooms were really, really clean, the cleanest I have ever seen at any RV park that we stayed at. But if you look at the water, in the morning you can see the steam rising up from the lake. And the reason for that is it was really, really hot, and the water was cold. It was so hot that the power got interrupted a couple of times while we were there. There's some hiking trails, one of which takes you to a beehive that you can look at, and that's kind of nice. But while you're there, you might as well go to Hot Springs and look at the Bathhouse Museum. It's really quite interesting. And you can see what passed for hydrotherapy back in the early 1900s through the 1920s. So this looks okay, you know, a tub, probably a hot tub filled with hot water right from the hot springs. But we also saw things that look like absolute torture chambers, and you have to wonder what people were thinking when they got into those. And you can walk along the promenade in Hot Springs, do it in the morning. We were there in August and it got really hot. And you can see hot water, almost boiling hot water, flowing from the underground. And that's interesting. And then we took a trip, a walk on it's called the Gopher Trail, and we saw these abandoned buildings. I still don't know what they were, but they looked like something out of a horror film. So if you walk along that trail, look for those. At the end of the trail was a very nice picnic area, and even though it was really hot, we stopped to have a picnic. Then we went to the Garvin Gardens. It's associated with the University of Lafayette, where there were beautiful, beautiful flowering areas, flowers in bloom, and these are just a couple of them. You can walk through the paths. It was very, very nice. And so here's another path that you can walk along. Another nice feature that I assume was put together to capture the attention of children is what's known as the fairy gardens. There's some carved tree houses and little castles and things. They're very whimsical, and they look like they're something out of The Hobbit, and I'm sure it really keeps kids' attention. And the other is Model Train Garden. It's a very big model train garden that unfortunately was not functioning the day we were there. I'm sure kids would love it, but I would love it as well. So the gardens are something that both adults and kids can enjoy. And if you're going to go to Hot Springs, I highly recommend that you check them out. One of the features of Garden Gardens is the cathedral. It's sort of ultra-modern and not exactly open air, but it's filled with glass, so when you're inside of it, you can see all of the surrounding foliage and trees. There's also the bell tower, which is again another ultra-modern building, and if you want, you can get underneath it and look up at the bell. It's actually quite spectacular. So I recommend Catherine's Landing RV Park. It's a little bit expensive, but because it has so many features, I think it's worth the extra expense.